Tonight on This Week in Movies, it's our year-end wrap-up show. We're going to look at the highlights of 2010 in film, the best and worst, as well as give out some awards in the year in film. And it's our first Farrell-less show, so maybe we'll get through the whole thing without mentioning Amanda Peet. Damn it! Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Movies. I think it's our first show ever without Farrell here.
Eerie.
I know, it's weird.
It's very weird.
I am your host. My name is Lon Harris. We will be doing, it's our year-end wrap-up show. I'd like to welcome Matt Robb from the This Week in Network.
What's happening?
You know him from This Week in Walking Dead. This Week in Horror. That just had its first episode.
That's right, I was with you on This Week in YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff.
So yeah, all over the place. Matt's
over the place.
Matt's a new shining star, an up-and-comer.
This Weekend's ubiquitous star.
Right, so we're gonna be going through. It's my list. I made a list of my favorite films of the year, my least favorite films of the year, and then we have some awards that I want to give out as well, some categories I made up. These are all mine, so Matt's going to be here to sort of counter.
I'm going to tell you you're wrong at every turn and chance I get.
Jump in, yeah, basically like let me know when he agrees or disagrees, and we'll go from there. And throw in things that obviously I have forgotten. You should definitely follow the show on Twitter at TWIMMie Movies. You could follow me. I'm at LONS, and you're just your name, right?
Just Matt Robb.
At Matt Robb. At R-A-U-B.
Yes. Pronounced like a bank, spelled not like a bank.
Right. Not at all.
No.
And you should also subscribe to us. You can go to youtube.com/thisweekend.
Yep.
And find us there, and you can subscribe to just this show. And you should also look for us on your Google TV if you have one of those.
We are on the Google TV, so check us out.
Right. Okay. Enough self-promotion. 2.5 minutes of solid self-promotion. I'm deeply ashamed. So let's get right into the first annual. Hopefully this will become an annual event.
I think so.
The TWIMMies. The TWIMMie Awards.
Yay, the TWIMMies! You get graphics and everything. Look at that.
That was fancy.
That's fantastic.
Our first category, Best Title of the Year. This is important. This is an important thing for a movie. So many movies, they get bad titles and then they just get overlooked, or if the title doesn't match the film, it's always a tough thing.
It's off, yeah.
So anyway, I picked Exit Through the Gift Shop as the year's best title. It's intriguing. It gives you a sense of what the movie's all about. It's kind of funny. It's memorable.
I like it. Exit, well, it works, and it's also long, so the guy who's on the ladder in the front of the marquee has to put all those letters up, so it's more work for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just one of those titles that it's memorable. It has something about it that sticks in your head, like, you know, I Spit Upon Your Grave.
Exactly.
It's in that mode.
Exactly.
So then we'll move right on into worst title. What would be your pick for worst title?
Worst title? Oh, man.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going.
No, I actually have a pick for best title.
Oh,
I have an
go right
opposite.
ahead.
I think Hot Tub Time Machine.
That's a great title.
It's a great title because you know exactly what the film is about, and there's no questions. There's no, oh, I don't know if this is going to be a really dark film. No, it's about a hot tub time machine.
Right. It is what the movie is about, and it's also funny.
Exactly.
Like, can they really make them? It sounds like it's a fake movie.
Very rarely can you go to a theater and knowing what you're going to see, just with the title alone.
Yeah.
And that works. It works for it. I liked it.
I agree. I picked for worst title. It's kind of a funny story. This is that indie film this year with Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
Terrible title for two reasons. One is that when you're watching the trailer, you can't tell that this is the title as opposed to a comment about the film. So you're watching it, it's like, great, Entertainment Weekly, funny, premiere, and then it's kind of a funny story, and you're like, who said that? The other reason it's a bad title is that it invites that, like, critic, it's kind of a funny story. No, it isn't. And you always want to avoid an opening like that.
It is not a funny story at all.
Yeah. Jazuda in the chat room says Law-Abiding Citizen for worst title.
That's a great title because it's ironic.
Right.
It's ironic, Jazuza Boos. Come on.
He's a murderer. He's not law-abiding.
He doesn't abide the law at all.
No.
But he is a citizen, so it's not that misleading.
So it's half. It's half and half.
Yeah.
Also, they don't like Faster in the chat room. I think that's a great title for a movie.
Faster? Faster's good.
Faster pulls me in. While we're talking about titles, one more thing I only noticed this last night. That every time they come out with a Fast and the Furious movie, and we're on number 5, they make the title a little shorter. So it's The Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, that one's the exception. Then you get Fast and Furious, and now Fast 5.
Yeah.
Like, where is there to go from there?
The next one's just going to be...
Right, eventually they're just going to get down to sounds.
That's all it's going to be.
So the next category, Happiest Surprise. This was tough because there were a bunch of movies this year that I didn't expect I would like, and I liked, and I picked Easy A as my happiest surprise.
I'd have to say the same.
A movie that you would think would be bad. I saw the trailers and I didn't think it would be great. It's not a genre, like teen comedy, not a genre I love often anymore. But it's a great throwback, funny movie. Emma Stone, totally charming.
You can tell because the amount of actors that we know that signed up for the film. You know that these people, they saw a good script there.
Right.
You know? I mean, it's a modernized Scarlet Letter, which is great, which is cool. Well, kind of a spin.
Sort of a play on the themes or whatever. But yeah, like, just unassuming. It reminded me a lot of Mean Girls, which is this movie that comes out and the marketing doesn't look like it's for me, and I wouldn't think I would like it, and then it turns out to be sort of delightful.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
That I agree with. That'll be the only thing I agree with the entire show.
Really? There's a lot of cogent points to make. Right. So let's move on. Most bitter disappointment. We just did Happiest Surprise. This one was actually not hard at all. Iron Man 2. I loved the first Iron Man movie.
As did I.
And this one is dreadful. They went from like one of the best Marvel films, if not best Marvel film, to one of the worst, if not, well, maybe not worst, but one of the worst.
Come on,
Marvel
man.
films.
You got Ghost Rider in there. With
Daredevil and Ghost Rider make
yeah.
cases for worst Marvel movie. But this is not that far, and Spider-Man 3, but this is not that far from that level of just
You really hated the movie that much?
Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
I really did. I thought no good villains. Like, Sam Rockwell's fun as Justin Hammer, but not threatening as a villain. He can't even build a weapon that works. Like, they establish early on for comic relief that he basically sucks. So it's like, well, he's not a good villain. And then Mickey Rourke, he looks like a homeless Star Trek villain.
He does.
He's like, you don't believe he's a physicist at all, ever.
But he had a talking parrot, which is fantastic.
Like, maybe if they just cast him as like a henchman or muscle, you could buy it. But he's like working on these, Tony Stark-like projects, and it's like, I don't believe them. What?
Yeah.
No, come on.
Well, I mean, honestly, to go with what you said about Rockwell's character as Justin Hammer, I mean, it was just a tool to play with Mickey Rourke. That was all it was.
Yeah, and I just the movie just feels like there's Iron Man, which is light and funny and colorful and fast, and then this movie just feels like dour and depressing and introverted, and I couldn't get into it at all.
It was a little misoriented when it came into the Nick Fury stuff and all the Avengers stuff. That's when it got weird. But I thought the rest of the movie was okay. So I disagree, sir.
All right.
I enjoyed Iron Man 2.
So what was your most bitter disappointment?
I'll tell you, it's a film that I saw this weekend. Tron Legacy, or as I like to call it, Tron Legacy. It was,
Tron Legacy.
It was not good. It was just unfortunate. I mean, everyone hated the script. I hated the script, but not just the script. I mean, just the rest of the film was just bad, including plastic robo bridges was terrible. Nothing was good about this film. So it's going to go up there in one of the worst films. Definitely the worst surprise.
Right, the one that you thought was going to be fun.
Exactly.
And then I have not seen it yet.
It's bad.
But I'll have to see it.
It's bad. I'll tell you that for sure.
So, staying on the same sort of topic, the most baffling misfire. This isn't necessarily like disappointing. This was like a movie that should have worked and just didn't for some reason.
Yeah.
And I picked Robin Hood.
Oh, definitely.
Which is confusingly bad. Like, why is it bad? Like, the idea behind it was just wrong-headed. Like, let's take one of the most fun, adventurous, kind of enjoyable folklore tales, and then look at this uninteresting period before the story begins, and, like, focus on that.
It did make it, especially when they brought the younglings in, and they were all tiny Robin Hoods. It seems like no one can do Robin Hood well except for Mel Brooks. He's the only one that knows.
Good. And Disney. I mean, how sad is it that Disney has the best recent Robin Hood film?
Well, Disney's been missing a lot. I mean, the Tempest was no good, and now Tron was no good, and Robin Hood, like, what? Yeah. They can't get their stuff together.
I mean, that's just the fact that they couldn't, that Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe couldn't get, like, a halfway decent Robin Hood movie, and then it's really sucky because in the last 2 minutes, it gets kind of fun. Like, they do they're putting the wanted poster up and he shoots the arrow into it, and you're like, oh, it's Robin Hood, and then it's over.
Yeah.
It's like, just when it gets to be good and interesting in Robin Hood, it ends.
I'll stick to the anthropomorphic fox from the early 70s. I'll go with that Robin Hood. That's
I literally prefer the Disney version of the story.
Absolutely.
Moving on, because we've got so much to get through, I over-prepared. The biggest waste of potential. So again, a little bit like Biggest Misfire, but I wanted to throw this in there too, because this was a movie that had, I mean, so much going for it. Yeah. And it was just not even watchable Alice in Wonderland. And it made huge amounts of money. It's one of the biggest, most successful films of the year.
Evidently, you are not a 16-year-old girl because
Was that who it was for?
Absolutely, it was. Absolutely. Go into a Hot Topic. I mean, I don't, but go into a Hot Topic and you'll see just walls and walls of stuff for Alice in Wonderland made for teenage girls.
I could see wanting to make an Alice in Wonderland movie that would appeal to teenage girls, but I don't know why this would be that movie. It's like you take a great original novel, fun characters, like amazing CG environments and effects, great cast, Tim Burton, and they got nothing. I mean, you can't even follow it. It's like they just mishmashed all this different stuff from Lewis Carroll books.
Yeah. And that was the start of the 3D trend of 2010, too. That was the first film that kind of went back and added the 3D, which is bad. It's just not good.
Jizhuda in the chat room wants to call this the Lovely Bones Award.
Sure.
For waste of potential. Like, I can see that. I mean, I actually think Lovely Bones, not a great film, but there was salvageable stuff. The Stanley Tucci performance, some of the visuals. This Alice in Wonderland is just, it's a wasteland. Yeah. I mean, I can't even 10 minutes put together.
There's nothing good about it. It's absolutely
not. There's nothing good about it.
I talk about the film, if you watch it in 3D, it's like dropping acid and walking to a Hot Topic. That's exactly what the film is like. Yeah, it's like you drop acid and you're like, oh, it's so much Tim Burton stuff everywhere. Like, it's just too much.
It's just depressing. I've said it before on the show. I will say it again. Tim Burton really, really needs to just like go look for a script, like some young person, new person, something that feels weird and Tim Burton-y, and just do that. An original story. No more remakes, no more adaptations.
Dogzilla.
Like, yeah, go find something new and original that he can make totally his own and not have to worry about, like, working in the Jabberwocky and all this crap. Anyway.
Just crap.
Just crap.
Just crap.
Moving on. The most painful advertising or promotional campaign. This was, I sifted through a lot. There was one poster from the year that stuck with me as the most irritating poster like ever. And I looked around to see if anything was going to top it, and it did not. The movie is Killers. Let's take a look at the poster. I think we have it out there.
Now, that's fantastic.
This doesn't even make any sense. Like, what are the emotions that these two people are feeling while they pose for this image? She's like, oh, I'm going to pick up a gun, but I don't know how to carry it because I'm a girl. And he's like, hey, where'd I get this gun from? What's going on? Like, it's literally, this is the point where characters in romantic comedies cease to have any relation to, like, real human beings who have real emotional lives.
If a picture could talk, that one would be screaming. It would just be screaming and then put a bullet through its brain.
I mean, you look at that and you just, not only do you not get a sense for what the movie's about, but they don't even look like they're real emotions.
Well, that's a perfect example of just casting the movie like all the Katherine Heigl fans will go and all the Ashton Kutcher fans will go, and they don't care what the movie's about. It could have literally been about nothing.
It's just about like
your favorite film, The Tourist. You just you put in, there you go, it's for you, Jabberwocky. This is, you put in Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie and nobody went to go see it.
So it doesn't matter. Jim Patrick in the chat was saying She's Out of My League is worse. I'm trying to remember the poster for She's Out of My League.
It was a 10. They gave everyone numbers. Everyone had like, this person looks like a 9.
Right.
That was cool because they tied in with MySpace. See, any movie they can work in with like a social networking thing. That I tip my hat a little bit.
Work in Twitter and I'm there.
Exactly.
The next category, throbbingest neck veins. This one was a total giveaway.
Alice in Wonderland.
The Expendables.
Yes.
I'm also giving it the first annual, the Liam Neeson Memorial Trophy for most throat punching in a single film.
Well, that wasn't The Expendables. That goes to...
Well, Taken, but that wasn't this year. So this gets like the Taken Award for best throat punching in 2010. Obviously, no movie in history has or will ever top Taken in terms of amount of throat punching per minute.
Well, it works.
Like
the guy goes down.
There's like 3 throat punches per minute in that film.
No, it's great.
It is great.
I enjoyed it, and all for his daughter, because he's got a very precise set of skills, all of which involve punching a throat.
They're just people like, this is his specific skill. That ability to just hit your neck in just the right angle.
And then they collapse.
And then you're like, it happens, works every time. So the next category, we only have a few of these left, and then we'll get into more discussion of actual films, I swear. Movie that when you break it up in 5 years, most people won't believe was a real movie. This happens a lot where a movie, like, it's a little older, and then you describe it to somebody, and they're like, no, it can't be like that. And then you look at it like, oh, sure enough. And so I had a tie for this one.
All right.
Furry Vengeance. Because imagine me in like a decade being like, oh, right, so it's like Brendan Fraser, and he's like in a park, and he's a developer, and then the animals are like conspiring to kill him. And then the other one, Repo Men. So like Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker are like in the future, and they have to drive around and like pull people's livers out.
Well, but that movie itself is a ripoff of another film called Repo, a Genetic Rock Opera, which is the exact same premise.
It's also all a ripoff of an old Monty Python sketch.
That too.
Where they show up and they take your organ, a random organ donor transplant or whatever.
Well, that's fair. It is a good tie. Can we also preemptively give that to the Beaver?
Yes, coming up next year. Yeah. Like, so Mel Gibson, this is after all the racism and beating up his girlfriend stuff, and he's got a beaver puppet. People are like, let me stop you right there. I don't believe that this is a real movie.
Yeah, and they just talk to it the entire time.
People talk to the beaver.
Awful.
Human Centipede, Jim Patrick throws out. Also a good choice. That will probably have a longer shelf life as like a cult favorite. So I think Human Centipede may still be infamous in 5 years.
They're already bringing the cast members to comic book conventions, so you know that the film already has a cult status.
Right.
They're like, hey, we've got the cast of Human Centipede.
This
like,
was called it is called Human Centipede First Sequence.
First sequence.
So there are plans for.
Oh, there's a second one already in the works.
Future sequences, right?
Yep.
So,
final sequence is the next one. Final sequence.
How can the next one be first and then final? They don't want to stretch this out.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Boo.
Let's move on. Any that you can think of, movies from this year that came out that are like you'll tell people about it in a decade, like, oh, I know, I reviewed this. And
well, there's one. The Nutcracker.
The Nutcracker in 3D.
The Nutcracker in 3D.
Yes.
Explain that premise. Well, all right. I actually had to explain it to somebody right after the film, and they didn't believe me.
So it's the Nutcracker, but the rats are Nazis.
Also, the rats are Nazis, and Nathan Lane plays...
Oh, that's right. Albert Einstein.
Nathan Lane plays Albert Einstein, and he talks to the camera. Like, he breaks. He's like, I'm shooting a show right now, so I just want to say hi. Like that. He's like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
It is. All right, so let's move on. I feel like we might be talking about Nutcracker again in a bit.
Oh, we will. We will.
Next category, big screen adaptation, least like the thing that it was adapting.
This is really low. To put this on an actual award, you'd need a really big plaque.
You would need a wraparound award. The A-Team.
Yes.
The A-Team movie I watched in stunned silence because I loved the old show, and it wasn't just like a bad interpretation of the old show. It was, you couldn't tell it had anything to do with an old show. I mean, it was just completely different from everything A-Team. Didn't feel A-Team at all. At the very end, they throw in the familiar song.
Right.
So you're like, oh, this was A-Team. That's right. But they just didn't capture anything. It feels more like Smoke and Aces 3.
Exactly.
Or 4, whichever one they're up to.
2.
No, they had 2. So now we would be doing... There's Smoke and Aces 2 with direct-to-DVD. I feel like they might have done a 3.
Assassin's Ball is the subtitle to that one. Not balls, ball. Assassin's Ball is the subtitle.
Yes.
One ball.
Is that now, do they actually have like an Assassin's Ball where it's like the player's ball? And
they all show up together. Everybody's there,
Yeah.
and they all fight, and it's a terrible film.
That sounds great.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like not even any remote resemblance to the A-Team, and it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to just take the plot of the show The A-Team and just make it a movie.
We know how Hollywood works. More than likely, it was a spec script that they decided to tweak around. Like, wait a second, if we get the Smokin' Aces guy, Joe Carnahan, to direct a movie, we can call it The A-Team. Boom.
Yeah, maybe.
Boom. Hollywood. Boom.
Boom.
And then it will be Amazeballs. That's right.
We don't need to frothy.
I worked in a frothyism. You're welcome.
Start praising Amanda Peet, and when we got a show. And then the last award, the only film of 2010 that I turned off without finishing. I talked about it on Lons TV, my YouTube show, the other day. I'm Still Here, the Joaquin Phoenix.
You turned it off in the middle.
Pseudo mockumentary.
Wow.
I watched it for about 45 minutes, and I literally was like, I can't stand this anymore. Like, I can't watch another minute of him, like, wigging out and, like, being a rude jerk-off to people. Like, that's the whole movie, is, like, Joaquin Phoenix, and when you're watching it, if you don't know if it's real or not, it's like, is Joaquin Phoenix a rude jerk-off? And now you find out it's a hoax, so it's like, oh, Joaquin Phoenix is pretending to be a rude jerk-off.
Yeah.
But there's no point.
But it was a nice attempt to do something viral, and it failed because we are in complete inundation with knowledge and information, so they couldn't really pull it off. If they could pull it off, if this movie came out 10 years ago, it'd be brilliant. Kaufman-esque.
I feel like they conceptually it sounded great, and then they started doing it, and then they realized they weren't getting good footage, but it was like too late because they'd already started. So now they had to like make this movie, but it just feels like there wasn't really a movie there.
Yeah, Casey Affleck just wants to be his big brother. He just wants to make movies that are cool like his big brother. Can you blame the guy? Can you blame the guy? I can't.
Not really.
I can't, that's for sure.
I can.
So, all right, so that's yours. I actually have one for this award.
Please.
Jonah Hex.
We'll be talking about that again in just a few moments.
Yeah, definitely. Not only did I turn it off, but I fell asleep twice, still woke up, and I'm like, this is still on, and I turned it off. And apparently the movie is only like an hour long.
It's like 70 minutes long.
I zonked out twice, woke up, felt like it was a completely different film, and then just turned it off. I'm like, this is obviously boring me, so I couldn't do it.
Completely pointless and boring. boring,
Yeah.
and there's no need to watch it. Okay, so let's move on. On that same note, let's move on to the worst films. My list. The 5 worst films of 2010.
Woohoo!
Always fun.
Always fun. I like the worst.
To do the
I like
worst
the
list.
worst better than the best.
It's negative. You feel bad being negative, but it's kind of fun. So
Screw 'em.
coming in at number 5, and I have to say I had 20 films when I was just thinking about movies I hated this year, and then I had to winnow it down to 5. So there were a lot. 2010, it feels like overall was a year of there were great movies and there were horrible movies, and there wasn't a huge amount of middle ground. There were movies I was like, meh, there were some. But there were a lot of movies I was like, meh, I either loved them or hated them this year. So these are the top most hated. Number 5, The Wolfman. Oh my goodness. Just a disaster on every level. Like a woeful attempt to sort of get back to that Hammer Films style where it's like lurid and gory and
I don't know who to blame about. I think I have to blame Universal for that one because Joe Johnson worked pretty hard, and then they went back and reshot everything.
Well, it was Mark Romanek started it, and then backed out, and then Joe Johnston came on board,
and then they pulled him out and re-edited what he had shot.
And you can tell when you're watching it, it feels very choppy, and there's stuff obviously that was shot to like link up to stuff that's been taken out. Like there's this long montage of Emily Blunt learning how to fight werewolves, and then she never uses any of the knowledge she gained in that sequence. So you could tell that there was some finale that they planned on that they didn't shoot, and it's choppy, it's all over the place. And I think the thing that they forgot was movies like this where they're gory and it's sort of lurid and over the top. Like the point of those Hammer films is that it's fun.
Yeah.
And when you take away the fun, kind of campy goofiness of it, it's pointless.
So wait, they allude to something with Emily Blunt and then don't come back to it, much like in Tron Legacy, or as I call it, Tron Legacy. No, they do the same thing in that movie. I'm going to keep coming back to it. I'm going to review the film throughout this show.
Right. So
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that.
So we do have a clip from The Wolfman that I think gives you a little taste of what I'm talking about here. Let's roll that now.
Terrible things, Lawrence. You've done terrible things. It is as you said, Inspector. It is as you said.
I'm sorry, Sir John.
Be strong.
You see, like, Hopkins gets it. Like, he's super gnashing his teeth, like, you've done terrible things. But nobody else seems to get it. Like, everybody else seems to kind of be playing it straight, and nobody's modulated on the same level.
If it was all camped up, it would be a great
If it was all camp, it would be fun, and if it was, like, a better story and more thoughtful and took itself seriously, it could be good. In the middle, it's nothing. You don't know whether to laugh or leave.
No, and I mean, you got Hugo Weaving, which is pretty good, as the hero, which I actually appreciated in that movie. Hugo Weaving as the hero is probably the only thing you can walk away and
He's
say
got
was good.
one good scene, Hugo Weaving, that like pint of bitters, please.
Yes.
When he's in the bar, like
Yes.
he gets one scene to be like hardcore, and you're like, oh, maybe this movie has some hope, and then nothing else.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much accurate.
Right. Okay, so my number 4, this is going to be a big point of contention for us. I can tell.
It is.
My number 4, Kick-Ass. I could not stand this movie. It was just like, it felt like the limpest, lamest attempt to do like a comic book parody. Like, first of all, that's just overdone now. And they're like, what if real people tried to be superheroes? Like, I'm bored with that to begin with. So they're already starting at a deficit. And then like the jokes and the sort of setups are just egregiously poor, and the dialogue is atrocious. I mean, just all the scenes with him not being a superhero are embarrassingly like bad teen comedy, and then all the scenes with him being a superhero are just like awkward and kind of fumbling and like poor man's comic book film.
But that's the idea. The idea is that this film is a poor man's comic book film. I mean, that's the...
No, why do I want to watch that when I can watch a rich man's comic book film?
Because you see the opposite end of it. See, that's Millar's book. Millar's book is 110% taking the world of comic books and superheroes and putting it on its head.
And making it lame.
No, it's not lame. It's cool.
No, it's totally it's super lame. And the thing with Matthew Vaughn that seems to run through his entire career, he did Layer Cake, he did Stardust, he's doing X-Men First Class next. The thread to me that runs through is he's always trying too hard to be cool. The movies are always very self-consciously like, I'm gonna sort of borrow from what other films have done and like be cool like them. Like Layer Cake is like, I produced Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and I'm going to like reuse Guy Ritchie-isms to make my film cool like his film. And then this movie is just self-consciously trying to ape superhero movies. And use it to be cool, and it's not cool at all.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool. I liked the film. I thought it was very good. They're going to do a second one. The book is great. Here's the thing: if you read the comic, and I'm a nerd for comics, as some of you may know.
I have not read Kick-Ass the book. I do love comics, and it's not a knock on comics. It's a knock on like this particular interpretation of the world of comics, and it just feels like the lead character is a total dud. There's just nothing funny. If it was funny, all of this wouldn't matter. But it's not.
Well, the one thing, if you hated the film, the one thing to walk away from is Chloe Moretz. Did you enjoy Chloe Moretz?
She's a good young performer and has been good in a couple things. I like her. It's not a knock on her. And actually, her scenes with Nicolas Cage, probably the best stuff in the film, just because it's edgy. At least it has like some personality.
He was the weakest part of the whole film. He was doing an Adam West impression.
The main character, Kick-Ass, Aaron Johnston is the lead who plays Kick-Ass, is the weakest part of the film. You don't care about him at all. It's a complete zero. There's no reason to follow this character.
That's the idea. He's a zero.
That's the idea?
He's a zero. He gets his
ass kicked. The protagonist is completely uninteresting?
That any of us can be superheroes if we have the balls to do it. If we have the balls to put on a costume.
It's only because he gets all of his like bones broken and then magically becomes a superhero.
See, no, that's the problem from the book. In the book, that's not how it happens. He's in a hospital bed for months on end, and he literally gets back up and does the thing he needs to do. Them adding adamantium or whatever the hell.
Yeah, like he's suddenly superpowered. So he's not an everyman, but he doesn't work as an everyman. He doesn't work as a superhero. He doesn't even work as like a teen. Like even Tobey Maguire does the like nerdy teen become superhero path better than this guy.
All right, then we agree that you're wrong. So there we go. There we go. There, it works. It works. Sure. See,
it does work.
I won one, everybody. Woo-hoo.
We're moving on. Enough of that. Number 3, worst film of the year. We mentioned it already. A little movie I like to call Jonah Hex, and I mean little movie because it isn't. It clocks in at a shocking 75 minutes with credits, folks. Wow. 75 minutes with credits. You can tell just from that, if nothing else, they couldn't come up with enough material to put in to get them to an hour and 30. Like Big Top Pee-wee is 90 minutes.
Yeah, well, I slept through most of it, so evidently wasn't even a good nap. I couldn't even get a good nap out of it.
I mean,
the opening sequence was cool. I'll give it them that opening animation where they have him getting hanged and all that. That was cool.
The other thing I would give it is, and this is sort of a half thing I'm giving it, the makeup on Brolin's face, like the effects to make it look like half of his face is burned off, is pretty accomplished. It looks a little bit like Two-Face in Dark Knight, but it works. But there's a downside to that. Whatever they did to Brolin to make his face look like that makes him talk harder for the whole movie. So seriously, you can understand maybe 40% of his dialogue.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And it's like, I get that, he's doing a voice, and that's cool, but like, it has to be a voice I can hear.
That's the issue. That's the issue with that, because Thomas Jane actually voiced the same character for the animated movie.
Right.
Animated, I don't know why that is, but he voiced the same character. He actually put a clothespin on his lip so he could talk like that all the time. You can't understand.
But you can't understand.
That's the problem with the character. I mean, if they did,
it's not a problem with the cat. Like, you could just, it's a little bit of a flight of fancy that, this character has a fucked up face, but I can still understand the words that he's enunciating, or subtitle the whole movie, but you have to do one or the other.
Which would be good. I wouldn't mind subtitles.
I wouldn't mind that either.
At least you could then see what the problem with the script is.
Well, it would have been a lot better than what they did, which is just like a main character that you can't understand what the hell he's saying.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we talked about this a little with The Wolfman. Same problem here. You could tell that it was a little bit of a troubled production because there's like a lot that doesn't go anywhere and things that don't link up. It really barely feels like a movie. And there's a lot, you could tell that like different hands had parts.
Well, they had to. Halfway through the film, DC pulled out the 2 writers. They pulled out the Crank guys.
Yeah, Neville
Dean and
Mark
Taylor.
Neville Dean and Brian Taylor who did Crank and Gamer.
And it was a very tumultuous argument. Like it was very they don't want to talk about it, do not mention anything.
And they don't cover it well. It feels like 40-50% was written by one group and then half was written by the other.
Well, now they're working on Ghost Rider, so if DC wasn't good with them, let's see if Marvel can be good to them. You're looking forward to it? Is that?
Can't wait for Ghost Rider.
All right, there it is.
Love Ghost Rider. All right. Number two worst movie of the year. Oh my God. Even to remember this movie is painful for me. MacGruber. We have a clip. Let's take a look at a bit of MacGruber.
Okay, now before we do this, any questions? Why do I have to be Hoss?
Because you're good at what you do.
And why do I have to be you?
First of all, you will never be me. And second of all, I forget your question. Okay. So it looks like we're dealing with 3 guards here.
It's 3 on 3.
Okay, so once we take out the guards, Vicky will walk in dressed as Hoss, and then we'll just, you know, see what happens. You ready?
Oh, wait. So we're just gonna wing it?
Piper, there's a big difference between winging it and seeing what happens. Now let's see what happens. No thanks.
What?
McGruby don't play like Homie, and Homie don't play like that.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying.
I mean, is that a joke? McGruby don't play like Homie, and Homie don't play that?
I actually use that line sometimes.
Really?
Matt Robb don't play like Homie, and Homie don't play like that.
I mean, first of all, it's somebody else's catch. It's Damon Wayans' catchphrase that is playing on.
But that's the idea. It's taking it and putting it on its head, much like Kick-Ass.
Oh my God.
No, I actually, there are things to take out of this film. I really dig the fact that Kristen Stewart is kind of being looked at as a leading lady. I think she's
Kristen Wiig?
Kristen Wiig, sorry,
Yeah.
not Kristen Stewart. Don't like
Right.
her. Kristen Wiig. Being looked at as a leading lady. I appreciate that.
I love her, although she was in a lot of not so amazing movies this year. She was also in Whip It, which is like,
You didn't like Whippets.
I mean, it's not horrible. It didn't make my worst of the year list. But
Okay,
it's
all right.
very like, okay, I've seen this movie 100 kajillion times. It's
Yeah.
not worse done than most movies like that, but it's not better done either.
But she was good in that.
She's good. It's never her fault. Like, it's
No.
never her fault. She's great. I really like her. And yeah, I'm glad to see her getting more parts and in different kinds of movies and in different sort of roles. But this is just like, I
It
mean,
had a few parts that were
is-
funny, where he flips off the chauffeur. I mean, there's a few parts that I really
Yeah.
dug. But the movie on the whole was pretty bad.
Audiophile in chat room says, let's take the 2 most boring actors on SNL and put them into a movie. I don't know if I agree, especially with Kristen Wiig. Like, yeah, Will Forte is not lighting any comic worlds
Yeah.
on fire, but she's fine. It's just the script. The script is the whole problem here.
Also,
like, there are-
Keenan was busy, so that statement doesn't work. Keenan couldn't do the movie, so
Right,
it
yes.
wouldn't work that way.
Right. But I mean, literally for a comedy, there are 10 to 12 minute long stretches in this without even any jokes, not even bad jokes, just no jokes.
Yeah.
It's one of the only comedies, maybe the only comedy I've ever seen where the opening scene doesn't have any jokes in it. The opening scene is Val Kilmer, who's the villain. He's stealing a nuclear missile, and you couldn't tell from that scene. I could pull that out for you and say, is this going to be an action film or a comedy? And you literally wouldn't know. You would think action film because there's no jokes.
Right.
And I mean, like, that just sees such a... It's just so lazy. It's just like, this is Will Forte's huge chance to make movies. Doesn't he want to, like...
And he also left SNL for something like that.
I
He
know.
left for SNL so he could do stuff like this, and I don't think he's going to get another shot at it.
I was just watching the whole movie thinking, like, a lot of people, like Jorma Taccone's never made a big film before. Like, this is your big break. Don't you want this to be, like, is this the best that you have? It doesn't feel like the best any of these people have.
No.
And Jorma Taccone, who directed this and co-wrote it, he's 1/3 of the Lonely Island guys.
Exactly.
Andy Samberg. Like, they're funny. Their viral videos are funny.
He's funnier on screen than I think he is behind the camera. Like
Yeah.
he was in Land of the Lost.
But you feel like surely he must be able to do better than this. The last thing I'll mention is that it's creepily homophobic, which is always like a turnoff for movies.
It is a little bit.
There's a couple different parts where it's like either joking that MacGruber's gay or other people are gay, and it's like it's gross or it's wrong, or like there's one scene where he's auditioning tough guys to join his posse, and there's one like super tough guy, and you're like, he's definitely going to join the posse, and then that big super tough guy kisses one of the other super tough
Played
guys.
by The Big Show.
Right. And then you cut back to MacGruber and he's like making a disgusted face and crossing him off the list like, gay guys can't be tough. And it's like, really? Come on.
But it's that 80s, he has that 80s kind of mentality, which is...
I get it, but you think about people seeing the movie and the impression they're going to get. It's just like, it's why go down that road?
Okay,
It's just not
all right.
necessary. All right. Worst film. This is it. Number 1. Worst movie of 2010.
We actually saw this one together. And
the two of us went and saw this together, like early in the morning.
Yeah, and I might have fallen asleep during this film, too.
It was
Yeah.
strange. Jim Patrick says, guesses Sex and the City 2. I didn't see that film. So I don't-
No,
I
but it was
think
pretty
it's not
bad.
that.
It was pretty bad.
I'm sure it was bad. The Nutcracker in 3D.
Woo!
Words cannot adequately describe this movie.
Yeah.
It is sort of an adaptation of the classic Nutcracker story that people know from the kids' story or the ballet.
No way.
Where it's like a Nutcracker toy and it comes to life and it has a little adventure with a little girl and they go kill some rats or whatever. But this is like, it takes that and then it blows it up into like a sci-fi action, like sub-Michael
Holocaust
Bay.
reference, yeah.
But in like a fascist rat city. I mean,
Yeah.
it's completely mind-boggling. Let's show you a clip so at least you get a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about.
Wow!
helicopter with bird legs attacking animated Nutcracker and a little boy dressed like a prince and then a monkey guy. I mean, it's just like, this is the Nutcracker? Like, what is this?
It's an action movie, man. It's an action movie.
It's like confused.
Well, the director knows action. The director knows
it's
action.
Andrei Konchalovsky directed it. He did memorably Tango and Cash, Runaway Train, some 80s, sort of memorable 80s action films. This is just, it's all over the place. It feels like there was no filter. Like, he was just throwing out ideas and there was nobody around to be like, Andre, that doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
So it's just everything that he came up with is in there. Albert, like Nathan Lane playing Albert Einstein, breaking the fourth wall to talk to the camera, like just crazy World War II Holocaust imagery all over
Didn't
the
make
place.
any sense. The entire
and then
film.
these Tim Rice songs that the music is Tchaikovsky from the Nutcracker. So it's like the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies, but he's singing a song over it about the theory of relativity. I mean, nothing that happens in the movie makes any sense at all. And not in a good way.
No, and it's in 3D. Remember that it's
And
3D is in its title. The Nutcracker in 3D. That's the title of the film. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Pretty terrible top to bottom.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's one of the most baffling, confusing movies I've ever seen.
You can tell that the movie's not going to be any good because it literally has like no production studio. It's like brought to you by Jim's Films. Like,
Yeah, it's brought to you by,
we make moonshine and also we produce movies. Like, it's just one of those things.
The studio behind Levitz.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Tango and Cash is memorable, Tex-Max says in the chat room. Yes, Tango and Cash is memorable. Maybe not memorably like great, but memorable. When people are thinking of like over-the-top, crazy 80s action, I feel like that movie comes up a lot.
I just think of the shower sitting scene. That's the only thing. Because they sit in the shower. That's unnatural.
It is weird.
Not
Well,
natural.
usually that's just like post-rape. The
Yeah,
movie trope
exactly.
when you sit in the shower is like you've just been sexually assaulted.
Exactly, and hopefully neither Stallone nor Russell were sexually assaulted.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
For Kurt Russell's sake. All right, so let's move into the meat of the show.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. The best movies of 2010. Yay.
I enjoyed this.
I picked 15 best movies. I know most people go 10. I went 15.
Because you like to go above and beyond.
I do. Well, speaking of which, I actually also have a list real quick of my honorable mentions. These were like movies I really liked.
But didn't make it on the list? Is this going to go before, or this means going to go
No, I'll
out?
do these first, because we're going
All
to go
right.
in reverse order. We'll count down.
Ah, gotcha.
So these are the ones that were like in consideration for the top list that didn't quite make it. My Son, What Have Ye Done? The Werner Herzog film. David Lynch produced it. I reviewed it on the show a few episodes ago. A Prophet, or Un Prophète, the French film. It was actually up for Best Foreign Film last year, in 2009, for the Oscar. It only came out in the States in February. I loved it. It's a prison, it's basically a hardcore French prison film. Really, really interesting, really well done.
My cup of tea.
Waking Sleeping Beauty, next on my list. Great documentary about Disney and its sort of down, low point in like the late 70s, early 80s, and then how this sort of one group from CalArts came in and sort of resuscitated it, and then their path to future glory, and it goes all the way through the making of The Lion King. Amazing, amazing behind-the-scenes footage of all of these movies coming together. So if you love Disney output from that era, like everything from basically Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. If you like that era Disney animation, this is a
Definitely
must-see,
there.
because
Yeah.
it's like interviews with Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg and all these animators. Lasseter, Brad Bird are all in it, and yeah, I mean, amazing, like, watching them sort of record the voices for Lion King and everything. All sorts of great stuff. The next, Get Him to the Greek. I liked it more than I expected to. Yeah.
Really?
I did.
Are you just a Russell Brand fan?
I am not like a huge Russell Brand fan. I'm also not a huge Judd Apatow fan. But I liked it. I like Jonah Hill in it a lot. I like Diddy in it a lot. I know there was a lot of hate out there for that movie, but
yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
I'm not a fan of Jonah Hill, nor am I a fan of Diddy, so I wouldn't do the movie. I like how they took the most awkward scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and decided to stretch that into a 90-minute film. Like, that's the thing that pissed me off. Like, really? Of the entire film, you couldn't just do a really good Jason Segel Muppet movie?
Yeah.
Like, I know it's happening, but
They
you
are
just
doing
couldn't-
that.
I know, but I want that before I have the stupid P. Diddy, Jonah Hill, Russell
Yeah.
Brand movie. Like, come on.
Jazuda in the chat was like, that was Apatow's low point, which, come on, Funny People has got to be worse, even if you didn't like Get Him to the Greek.
I think
And
Funny
Walk
People's
Hard
good.
is just dreadful.
That's where we differ. Walk Hard, definitely an A+ film for me. We've had arguments, we've had drag-out fights about Walk Hard. I love that film. I love that film.
I'm gonna keep going so we don't have
No,
another
go
Walk
for
Hard
it.
argument.
Yeah, no, it's
Kids Are All Right. on my honorable mentions list. Great performances, an interesting story, funny.
Yep.
Very just like low-key but entertaining.
The Hulk. The Hulk did a good job in that.
The Hulk does a great job in it. Ruffalo. As,
Ruffalo
likes to call him. Winnebago Man, another great documentary about Jack Rebney, the guy who's in that infamous YouTube clip yelling while he's making a Winnebago commercial. It's you don't expect it because the first sort of half hour, it seems sort of pointless, like hunting down this real guy and what's he going to be like, and it's all sort of anticlimactic. And then Rebney actually gets back in touch with the documentary filmmaker, and that's when the movie takes this turn and gets fascinating. And the rest of the time, it's just an incredible character study of this guy, and he's just sort of an oddball, and also just like why viral videos like matter and what sort of hole they're filling in our culture. And,
Interesting. I'll have to
yeah,
check that
really,
out.
really well done. Next on the honorable mentions list, Black Swan. A lot of people loved this one.
You didn't put it on the list?
It didn't make my top 15. I was really, I admired it, but I was really like left cold by it. I told Farrell and I discussed this last week on the show. It really just didn't. It didn't all come together in the end. It sort of feels like two movies in one to me. There's this over-the-top, lurid melodrama set in a ballet with Vincent Cassel is sort of in on that level, and Winona Ryder's on that level. And then there's this very realistic story about what it's actually like to be a ballet dancer. And the two just sort of didn't necessarily mesh.
Wow, I can't believe it didn't make your top 15. Well, I'll tell you what, if Aronofsky's watching, it made my top 15.
And I like Aronofsky, and I like the film. It didn't get to my top 15. I see Isadade, or no, Jizuda, keeps mentioning Buried, which I did not see, so it can't have made my list.
Yeah,
Ryan Reynolds. It looked cool. It was in.
It didn't get enough of a release.
It was at Sundance when I was there, but I did not catch it. So
yeah,
I missed it this year.
Ryan Reynolds in a box for 90 minutes. Who wouldn't want to see that?
So I apologize. And then the last two on my honorable mentions list, Somewhere, the Sofia Coppola film from this year, which was again interesting but not like worthy of top 15 inclusion, and then Shutter Island, which I thought technically was great, but kind of a letdown.
Yeah, I could see that.
Didn't all end up coming together for me, but visually is beautiful.
No,
really,
it looks great.
Really
it looks really good, and it was too much of a. It was too many twists and turns for me.
Well, I mean, I'd read the novel, so I sort of knew what was coming. But even so, he didn't. The novel feels a little creaky in the final third, and so does the movie. Like he doesn't fix the issues that are there in the story, so it kind of falls apart at the end. But the build-up is great. Okay, so let's jump into the actual top 15.
Here we go.
Coming in at number 15, we have already mentioned it on the show as best title.
Yes.
Now we're getting to the movie itself. Number 15. Hot Tub Time Machine.
There
Let's take a look at a clip.
There it is.
This is the coolest town ever. That used to be Papa Enzo's.
I broke up with Jenny Stedmeyer there.
What made you break up with her again?
I don't know. We swapped virginities junior year, and all we did was listen to records and have sex, and she was epic. I mean, she was epic.
Yeah, man, she was hot.
And then when I broke up with her, she was so mad she practically stabbed me in the eye with a fork. Actually, she did stab me in the eye with a fork.
She was a 1%er, man.
Yeah.
All downhill from there.
That was a big one. First love.
One that got away.
The Great White Buffalo. Yeah.
The Great what?
Great White Buffalo.
Why are you guys whispering?
Great White Buffalo.
That was really helpful, you guys.
So they didn't have any of like you don't want to blow any of the big moments, and most of them are dirty.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really put most of them in the film. But it's a lot of fun. It's very funny.
Oh, I love the movie.
And I love that it's a deconstruction of so many different things all at once. It's like a deconstruction of John Cusack 80s movies. It's a deconstruction of just the idea of doing like a period film generally. It's a deconstruction of like time travel movies and paradox movies and like bro comedy.
Exactly.
And it's all of those elements, and they mix together. You'd be surprised at how well they mix together.
It all comes together. I really enjoyed that flick, just top to bottom.
Yeah.
I really kind of dug it. Also, it's kind of like I guess the death rattle of MGM. Like it was one of the last great things that MGM put out.
Maybe the last.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
And the other thing you have to highlight about this one was Rob Corddry. I mean, he's hilarious in it, but it's brave because he's playing a really detestable, unlikable guy.
Yes.
And that's not easy to do. I think you think of something like John Goodman in Big Lebowski or Vince Vaughn in Maid. It's like one of those kinds of performances where he's playing this guy who should be really annoying, but you also actually come to sort of love.
You root for him.
And when he's not on screen, you're like, oh man, I can't wait for Rob Corddry.
I want more
to
Rob
come back.
Corddry. Yeah. Honestly, you could just say the reason why it's on your list is because it has a theme song. The only film on your list to have a theme song.
It has its like own hot tub time.
Yeah, it's just a hot tub time. Like that whole thing is just great.
Yeah, they're mocking me in the chat room like, oh, this is better than Black Swan. It's like, just because Black Swan is a little bit pretentious and this movie is a little bit silly doesn't mean one has to be better than the other.
Yeah, you're comparing...
I dislike that whole line of thinking that, oh, serious movies always have to outpace silly movies. Like, a great comedy can be just as satisfying as a great comedy.
You're comparing apples to hot tubs.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You just can't do it.
And Relax Jesuda, no Hereafter on the list. It did not make either list. So.
Thankfully.
No worries.
Yeah.
Next on the list, next item, number 14, Frozen. And we've had writer-director Adam Green on this very show.
That's true. That's true. And our very own Miss Frothy, she asked him all about how cold it was on the set. And apparently it was really cold on the set.
You almost describe it as frozen?
Oh, look what you did there.
See what I did there?
Yeah, you brought it back around.
Sounds like a lame gimmick. When you hear the plot, you're like, really? They're stuck on a ski lift for a week? Really?
Yes.
And then you see it, and it is a extremely clever take on that. Like every level of it was sort of thought out in advance. It always has another place to go, and it viscerally puts you in that position. And more than almost any other film this year, while I was watching it, I was into the scenario so much that I was thinking about what I would do, how I would try to get out, what it must be like.
That's exactly what he wanted. That's exactly what Adam Green was hoping for, and he had even said in the interview that he was like, I want people to like be like, no, don't do that, like climb across.
Right,
like,
and it absolutely 100% works really well. Also, the last thing I'll mention about this, amazing use of sound. He gets away a couple times with keeping the action just off screen and expressing it to you entirely through sound, and it's incredibly creepy and chilling and effective.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Really well done.
It's very, very well done.
So that's number 14. Number 13, another low-budget indie, but one that I absolutely adored this year.
Might be my film of the year.
It was. I was tempted to move it higher, I will say. And it was only moved around a lot. It's called Monsters, written, directed, and shot by one guy, Gareth Edwards, done totally guerrilla style.
Amazing.
The plot is... it's a sci-fi film, but in a very recognizable, relatable universe. There are aliens in Mexico.
Right.
So the United States put a wall up to keep the aliens out.
Yep.
Can you see where this is going? And so this guy basically gets hired to go down below where the aliens are, get a young heiress, and bring her back to the United States through alien country.
Right. And this is an interesting take on the found footage thing that is taking over Hollywood right now. It doesn't really do the found footage thing, but it kind of works in that almost like an Office style.
It's very like handheld, very intimate, lots of close-ups. It really feels like a you are there kind of thing. And the amazing thing about the movie is how it was made is it was all like guerrilla. He basically just went and started shooting this stuff in Mexico, real locations. Most of the people in the film did not know they were in a sci-fi film.
Yeah, and all of the effects, like there's even down to the wall, there's like graffiti on the walls. That's all done in post.
Yeah.
Everything in this movie, signs, graffiti, the monsters themselves, all done in post. It's fantastic.
So let's take a look at a clip so people can get like sort of a feel for what I'm talking about. This is one of the first encounters with the aliens in the film.
Sí, viene cerca, es grande.
Por favor, Juan. Calder, come on. Stop taking pictures.
Apúrate. What do you want me to do?
Are you looking at what?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Está saliendo más. Viene más para nosotros.
Hay una cosa en la...
What is that? What is it?
Why is it?
Apúrate. Machete estaba por acá.
Más rápido, por favor, señor.
So the effects are great, all like homemade effects. But it works totally independently of the effects too. Like you could just have this be a story about two people traveling through Mexico getting to know each other, and it would still be very watchable.
I was almost hoping they never showed the monsters. Like
Yeah.
that would have even been better. Like it's all just in your imagination. We would never have that Cloverfield reveal where it's like, oh crap, that's the monster. But the monster actually looks cool.
The monster looks kind of cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I dug it. So anyway, let's move on. Now, great movie. Check it out. I think you can get it now on iTunes.
It's on iTunes. It's
Yeah.
on Netflix. It's everywhere. Yeah.
Right. Then they're making fun of homemade, but it is homemade. It's not. There was no studio. This guy made the effects himself.
All in his basement.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one person. That means homemade. Moving on. Number 12, The King's Speech. Big end of the year awards. People are talking about awards for this one, and it's low key. It is what it is. If you've seen sort of British historical dramas of this sort, BBC kind of productions, you sort of know what you're getting. But it's just propelled by really great performances from Colin Firth, Geoffrey Rush, Helena Bonham Carter's great in it too, and then you get a lot of really great performances from great well-known British actors in like small parts. You get Derek Jacobi, Timothy Spall plays Churchill in it, and it's hilarious. I mean, his take on Churchill is really brilliant. For people who are not familiar, it's about George VI, who's played by Colin Firth, who was the King of England at the sort of the dawn of World War II, and he has a stammer, so he can't really give big public addresses very well at all, and that's basically his entire job as king. So he ends up hiring this very unconventional speech therapist played by Geoffrey Rush to work with him, and it's really just about their friendship and the process of getting George VI to come out of his shell, all based on a true story. And the guy who wrote it, David Seidler, he's been trying, it's like a passion project for him. He's been trying to get something made. He's 73 years old, and he just got it made. He's been trying for like 40 years.
Wow.
So it's kind of amazing that it even exists, and it's very like well done in that British professional, you're going to get high quality entertainment way.
There you go.
There I go.
That's cool.
Let's move on.
Moving on.
Number 11, Catfish.
I like this one.
I loved Catfish. Directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. It's about Yaniv Schulman, or Nev, as they call him in the film, one of the co-director's brother. He had started I won't give it away, because I know the big thing with Catfish, everybody's talking about it's a twist movie.
There's a slow burn, too, so if you have no patience for film, don't see this
So
film.
the opening is this guy, Nev, is starting a sort of an online relationship with this whole family. He meets a girl named Abby Pierce. He's a photographer. This girl, Abby Pierce, is a painter, and she's painting versions of his photographs, and they're sort of amazing from this little girl. So they strike up a friendship, and then he ends up getting to know her mom and her sister, and actually starts kind of a romance with the sister. I won't go any further, but it's sort of about how the internet shaped all of these relationships and all that. It was marketed as this twist movie, like you see it going one way, and then there's this big, don't tell your friends what happens, and that's the appeal of it. And I mean, that's there.
They gave it away in the trailer a little bit.
Sort of, but I mean, all that is there. But to me, what makes it interesting is that it's really it's a web documentary. Like the documentary was made as much by the internet as it is by film. The entire story is really told through social networking, through web searches, and it's really like you're following these directors as they are living their lives online.
Exactly.
And I thought that was really fascinating to see this whole story that's really just about searching for things on the internet, friends, information, updates, and then finally insight about life. A webumentary, as Jim Patrick calls it in the chat room.
Webumentary.
I think that's a good idea for it. It's one of the best representations I think maybe I've ever seen in a movie about what it's like today to interface with technology and how technology comes in between our relationships. It both brings people closer and isolates them.
It was interesting, yeah. No, and also ties in social media, so it's got my thumbs up.
Right. But yeah, I thought a really interesting film that kind of didn't get its due because it was marketed in this way that it's like, it's all about the like big, shocking twist. And we did a good job of talking about it without giving it away.
Look at that.
Very proud of myself.
Look at that.
All right, so now we're entering the top 10.
Woohoo!
We're down to the top
10.
Number 10, I feel like, is going to take some people by surprise.
Only because it's so far down the list.
Armand White just picked this today as his movie of the year, so I'm in good company.
There you go.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
This is my number one.
This is your number one. This is your favorite movie of the year.
This is my film of the year. I could watch this movie day in and day out.
Absolutely a very entertaining film. Absolutely a great entertaining film, and with amazing music. The best soundtrack of the year. If I had to pick just like a collection of songs, Beck produced the soundtrack and wrote some of the original songs.
Yep.
And then the clip we have is actually taken from the music video for one of the songs. This is the band Metric. The song is Black Sheep. Let's take a look.
Love that song. It's my ringtone.
It's
my ringtone.
It's a great song. I mean, I felt like I could have just showed a clip from the movie, but I felt like that really captures the spirit of the movie. It's all over the place. It's a million things at once. It's an ADD movie for sure. And I really like that it's not just about video games or references to video games or for fans of video games. It really internalizes the logic of video games. Like this is what romantic comedies would be like if we lived in the video game world instead of on Earth.
And if I punch a guy, he would turn into coins.
Right, but I mean, like, these are, you know, if life was a video game, the real world challenges would be like finding yourself, getting a girlfriend, moving into your own apartment. Like, that would be leveling up if the world were video games. And so it's actually kind of clever and almost, dare I say, insightful.
It was pretty insightful.
I think it was. I think Edgar Wright did a sort of an amazing job of adapting these tricky novels that don't necessarily lend themselves
not at all, no.
to visual interpretation like that. And it's really well shot. The effects are great. I liked a lot of the cast. There's a few performances that are a little clunky, but there are a lot that I would highlight as well as being really
it was
fantastic.
pretty good. And also now the only negative is it's now become gospel for every hipster in the universe because they all love this film and it becomes that for them. So.
I would highlight Kieran Culkin among the performers.
Fantastic.
I think maybe the comic performance of the year, like maybe the funniest character in any film I saw this year.
Punchy, it was smart, it was fast, it was quick.
He's got this deadpan delivery that is like really you wouldn't think. I don't associate him with being like a hilarious guy, but he's hilarious in this movie.
He's really good. No, it also inspired the year's best adapted video game. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the video game.
The Xbox Live version.
And PSN Network. Yeah, it's a fantastic game if you love side-scrollers. I still play it. I know you still play it.
I do.
It's a great game.
It's a great game.
It's awesome.
Let's move on. Number 9, Exit Through the Gift Shop. Mentioned it before as my favorite title of the year, also one of my favorite films of the year.
Sounds like a Bob Dylan song.
It does,
It does sound like a Bob Dylan song.
I love him. You know, so it was made by Banksy, the street artist Banksy. It was really made by two people. It's made by a French guy named Terry Guetta, and then Banksy sort of almost takes the film away from him, finishes it himself, and it becomes about the guy who made the first half.
Yeah.
So it's kind of brilliant, and you don't really know how much of it is set up. It's some parts and some of the footage they capture almost feels too good to be true. Like, how could he have possibly gotten all of this stuff? But at the same time, I would sort of believe it, you know, if only because it's presented so compellingly and it would have been so hard to fake.
Yeah.
But it's a million things in one. I mean, it works on a lot of different levels. It's a great introduction to just street art, its history, the main people who are making it. And I mean, the whole film is filled, beginning to end, with beautiful, interesting, funny, clever pieces of art, and some that aren't quite so great and interesting. But and it's an examination of, you know, sort of art and commerce and how they sort of coexist and work together. And it's really a character study that's also really funny of this guy, Terry Guetta, is this incredibly eccentric main character, almost like an Inspector Clouseau type character, where he's sort of bumbling and hopelessly naive, but also has kind of a demented genius to him. And it's funny and it's just so compelling.
It works for him.
It really works.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Not as much as you, but I enjoyed it.
I really dug it. So let's move on. Number 8, 127 Hours. The Danny Boyle film.
The gory film.
It wasn't, so people definitely overreact. You cut off one arm in
Just
a movie.
one. He's got another one.
This movie is gimmicky as hell. It's super gimmicky, and at first I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it for that reason, that it's too much, and he's just kitchen sinking it. He's just throwing everything he can. But it really does come together by the end, and it actually becomes maybe his most emotionally weighted film. Like, I felt more impacted by the end of this than I have maybe any Danny Boyle film ever, possibly Trainspotting with the exception of, although that again is more style.
Nobody shit the bed in 127
Nobody
hours.
shits the bed in this one, although, you know.
Well, do you think Frank will get the award? Do you think Frank will pull the Academy Award?
I think it's definitely as strong as he's ever been. I mean, I would say there's probably 3 or 4 like main competitors. I think Colin Firth in King's Speech is also like a pretty solid pick for
it's up
best
there.
actor. And I mean, I would say Bridges in
Tron.
In another film that maybe will be coming up on the list. Anyway, like Trainspotting, it's all kind of divided into these different little segments, each with their own kind of tone, their own style, their own soundtrack, and he really manages to keep it all together really well. He holds it all together despite being kind of flying off the handle. It really shouldn't work It should be cheesy.
Yeah.
For people who aren't familiar with the film, it's a real life story based on the book Between a Rock and a Hard Place, which is, I can't believe he called his memoir that. By this guy Aaron Ralston, who really was hiking in Utah and got pinned under a boulder and was so isolated and was there for the titular 127 hours before he had to cut off his arm in order to escape. And you're really like, the whole movie does develop this kind of claustrophobic feel, and Franco is very good at sort of breaking this guy down over time. Until
the tension builds from the titles to the point where he cuts his arm off. It is absolutely just exponentially getting more and more cringeworthy.
Right, and the use of flashback is, most movies have no clue how to use flashback. It's really awkward. And in this movie, it's weaved so well into the sort of tone and pace of the movie that actually pays off really well. Will is making fun of it. Like, cuts his arm off, you've ruined it.
Yeah.
I guess it's mild,
Spoiler alert.
Mild spoilers in my 127 hours review. Okay, number 7 on the list, Winter's Bone.
Winter's Bone.
Another great indie. A lot of indies on my list this
Reason
year.
why I love this film is because it doesn't need a porn change in title. You could just still call it Winter's Bone, and it's still a great film. Sorry.
Still a great film.
It's still a great film.
But the porno version of this would be amazing.
It would be good. It would be good.
The lead character is only 17. You'd have to make her 1 year older. So this was directed by Deborah Granick, who did Down to the Bone, which is another film with a strong lead female performance, but that one didn't have as much else going for it. That was Vera Farmiga as a drug addict, and it was really just kind of a pretty standard, like, addiction memoir. This movie is a little bit of everything. It's a little bit crime thriller, a little bit coming-of-age drama. It gives you this amazing sense of this lived-in world that you've never really seen in a movie before.
Yeah.
This, like, small Ozark meth-based community. It's sort of beautifully ugly. The cinematography is amazing. It almost reminds me of The Road, which is post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And this movie is set in the present day in America.
Very dark, very dirty.
Gloomy, everything's always overcast, and I mean, the environment is just so, like, visceral and evocative. Really great cinematography by Michael McDonough. We actually have a clip. The story is a 17-year-old girl. She's basically in charge of her family. Her mom is out of it. Her dad is a criminal, and he's a meth cook, so he's just off. No one knows where he is, and it turns out her dad put her house up as bail and has now skipped town. Like, nobody can find him, so they're basically going to come in and take the house away, and she's got 2 younger siblings she's supporting, and her mom, who's just kind of out to lunch, that she's supporting as well. So she's got to basically find her dad. Nobody in this small town wants to tell her where her dad is, because they're all in the meth trade together.
Of course.
So this is her talking to her uncle, trying to get her uncle to tell her where her dad is. Let's take a look at the clip.
Jess and me run together for coming on 40 years, but I don't know where he's at, and I ain't gonna go around asking after him neither.
Ree, you still planning to join the Army?
No, I don't think I can anymore. Listen.
No.
Dark stuff.
Yeah, and that's her uncle.
Oh,
that's the great John Hawkes as Teardrop, her uncle. People may remember him from Deadwood. He's been in and Eastbound and Down. A lot of great movies too. Anyway, it's incredibly. It builds incredible amounts of tension by the end. This movie, like, it works as sort of a drama and great performance by this girl, but also just like it becomes this really dark thriller by the end that it was like sort of on the edge of my seat, I have to say. And it's rare for a movie to combine all those different elements all at once. I think it's a great film.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Number 6, The Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage.
No, that's The Ghost Rider, man. Ghost Rider. This is The Ghost Writer. Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor as a guy that comes back from
McGregor as a novelist.
Oh,
Doesn't that
man,
sound thrilling?
that sounds riveting.
So anyway, this is Roman Polanski's new film. Am I not supposed to like Roman Polanski anymore? I guess I'm not. But I can't deny that the guy still makes brilliant, amazing intense thrillers.
Yeah.
I know, evil guy, we all hate him.
I don't
I'm not
hate him.
defending him.
Hey, everybody's got their skeletons.
I want to go on the record, I am not defending Roman Polanski, but his work is genius, and this is sort of vintage Polanski. Like, this is what he does as good as he does it, basically. Like, you get sort of a paranoia plot, you get this creepy, deserted Hamptons setting, you get this, like, vaguely hinted at conspiracy that kind of comes more and more into focus over time. It's just one of those movies that from the first 5 minutes, it's directed with such confidence, it has such a mastery of sort of tone and style and pitch. Like, you just know you're in the hands of, like, a veteran, of, like, a guy who just knows how to put a friggin' movie together.
Two people in the chat room are agreeing with you. One says meh, the other one says blah.
I mean, they're not they're not fans. And then Jazuda says it's 7 out of 10 is what he'd give it. I don't know. I mean, I feel like the screenplay was just really tight, and it was it's manipulative, but it never feels cheap. It feels like every twist and turn, you don't see it coming, but at the same time, it makes sense and it works out, and you go back and you're like, oh yeah, that was really well orchestrated. A great script. It's based on a novel, and then Polanski helped the novelist adapt, and great music. Alexander Desplat.
Desplat, yes.
Yeah, he did the score. He's done like a ton of recent films. I know he did Fantastic Mr. Fox. He did all the music for that one too.
So he's got that old 80s feel to him.
Right, yeah. So anyway, great movie, real solid, just well made. Like, you're in the hands of kind of a master with it.
Not the Nicolas Cage one though.
No, that is Ghost Rider.
Gotcha.
You can tell the difference because one is British people talking and the other is Flaming Skull on a motorcycle.
Also, not the Ghost Rider PBS series about a blob of ghosts that would help kids do their homework from the mid-90s. Not that either.
Somebody should really adapt that.
They should. They should.
This is not that.
Not that. No, okay.
After the Encyclopedia Brown redo, they'll
exactly.
get that.
We'll occur in the Ghost Rider.
Okay, so we're at the top 5.
Woohoo!
I can't believe it. Unbelievable we made it. Number 5. One of the biggest movies this year, one of the biggest movies this summer. I, on this show, strongly disagreed with Tinch about it.
Tinchy.
We had a hater on the show. Tinchy was not a fan. I was a huge fan. Christopher Nolan's Inception is the film. Combines pretty much every genre known to man into one provocative, exciting, gripping 160-minute experience. Like, if this is one of those movies that feels like an experience, like a perfect summer kind of movie.
It does,
you feel like you go on a ride with this movie, and you don't know where you're going, and it's thrilling while you're there, and it's incredibly entertaining. And I mean, it's action, it's got a cool caper, it's science fiction, it's got
a great theme.
It's got a great theme. It's romance, it's a psychological thriller, it's even kind of funny.
Yeah.
You've got Tom Hardy as this great comic relief character. And I'd highlight 3 technical people's work. Cinematography is by Wally Pfister, who did the Batman films with Nolan and is a genius. Hans Zimmer did the amazing score, one of the year's best for sure. And then Lee Smith's editing, clearly the year's most noticeable, like, high wire act in terms of putting all of this together.
Definitely.
And I mean, I thought it just was brilliant.
I only had one problem with the film. I'm tired of the tortured soul hero.
Yes.
The only thing I'm tired of.
Well, it feels like the only part DiCaprio now plays.
It's just a tortured soul.
Like, people always gang up, we talked about Scott Pilgrim before, people always get on Michael Cera's case, like, oh, he plays Michael Cera in every movie, and he sort of does.
Yeah.
But people never get on DiCaprio's case for doing essentially the exact same thing. Like, really is this guy in pretty much every film.
Harrison Ford in the mid-90s always wanting his family back. Just give me back my family. That was all he was doing, was fighting for his family. All Leonardo DiCaprio is doing is just forgetting that his wife is tortured.
Have you seen, I think it's Air Force Wife, or Wife Force One? Somebody made a montage where it's like every Harrison Ford movie where he's looking for his kid or his family, but it looks to make it look like it's one movie.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So the whole movie's just, give me back my family! Where's my son? It's really brilliant. Go look it up. I'll embed it in the show notes.
Sure.
Okay, so moving on. Number 4, Toy Story 3.
Had to be on the list.
Loved. When I saw this movie in June, I thought, that's going to be the movie of the year. A few other films came up and then got ahead of it, but when I saw it, I was completely blown away.
I cried.
This along with number 2 are the 2 saddest films this year, and this one is animated about toys.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
I cried on the plane. The first time I saw it was on a plane, just weeping between 2 big people.
It's heartbreaking.
Terrible.
By the end of this film. It really is, and the fact is, only the first half really builds up any character development. The second half is just really a chase sequence.
Yeah.
So the fact that they managed to get that much pathos out of the end is like sort of amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Disney
know really
now
how
knows
they did
they
it.
should just stick to the animation and kind of let Touchstone do all the live action films. Let them handle that stuff.
Let's let them hang out. But yeah, I mean, and it's filled with small, sort of loving, carefully thought out detail. In terms of just the animation, Pixar is getting such mastery with texture. They'll have like 8 different textures in one shot, and you can tell the difference between like what a carpet looks like versus wallpaper versus a toy. Like it's really unbelievable how good they're getting down how to make these films.
Yeah,
is really the point.
No, it's great. Considering where we were in, what, 6 years, 10 years? I mean, just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and watch the first Toy Story movie compared to this one, the first one, great animation, but it's all very sort of shiny. There isn't a ton of little fine detail. And this one is, I mean, a whole world has
in the
been
first film,
created.
everybody looked like Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy.
Yeah, wow.
Tron Legacy. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I got it in there.
Tron negativity.
Tron negativity. No, it's just terrible. It's terrible. It's not good. I want to get that in there one more time.
Really? I'm going to have to see it now.
Now you have to.
Well, I was going to see it.
All right, well,
but
there
now
you go.
I'll really want to
see it in 3D, because not all of the movies in 3D.
3 IMAX or just 3D?
Just 3D.
Wow.
IMAX you might fall asleep, just because it's too much to take in.
It's too much.
Too much going on.
No.
Yeah.
I'm feeling...
All right, so what's the next one on the list
Next
there?
one, let's move on. Number 3 is Blue Valentine. I saw this in January, and it stuck with me the whole year.
Wow.
No movies that I saw, in my mind, sort of topped this, just in terms of being devastating. I mean, when you're walking out of the when I walked out of the theater, everybody was like bleary-eyed and red-faced and like looking ahead like zombies, like trying to put their lives back together. I mean, it literally has that level of impact. It's a romance. It's got Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, and the basic premise of the movie is you're seeing them meeting and falling in love, and then you're cutting back and forth to 5 years later when their marriage is crumbling and on its last legs.
It's like The Notebook if it was miserable.
Right, and
exactly.
it's wrenching to have to watch. It actually, in some ways, is similar to that film Irreversible, that Gaspar Noé film, where you're going reverse through a love affair, so you're seeing like the horrifying end, and you're going back to when times were happier. This is a little bit like that, where it's back to back, just for maximum, like to make you feel and cringe and feel pain. Back to back, like glorious moment of love, the beginning of love with like its horrific screeching death on screen right next to each other. Also worth highlighting is the makeup in this film is amazing. I mean, how the detail on how they age each of these characters 5 years. They've given Gosling like this incredibly realistic receding hairline and just made them look tired and haggard. And the fact that they shot it like back to back is sort of amazing.
And pretty cool. I mean, it should be on the list that high just for the fact that it beat the MPAA. The fact that it went up against Goliath and it won.
Well, that was a weird thing with this film because, I mean, that's designed for movies that are, like kids shouldn't see it. Inappropriate.
Right.
And this film is, I mean, very frank. Like, it's about marriage and sexuality and love, and it's frank about all that stuff, but it doesn't feel like, oh, I definitely wouldn't want, like, a mature 16-year-old to see this.
No, not at all. Yeah,
like, it would be good for a young person
I would think so, yeah. It's about love.
Yes. Well,
getting
about
down.
love dying.
Yes, exactly.
We have a clip. Let's show the clip.
That's it. Hold on. Boom.
Baby.
I got. Well, I didn't make it, but I got us a song. Like our song that would just be for you and me. Because everybody's got songs, but they're lame, and they all share them. It's disgusting. Not us. We have our own song.
What is it?
Do you want to listen to it?
Stop it, I love you too.
That's heart-wrenching stuff.
This is one of the happy scenes.
Still on its own, I'm like, I can definitely get just completely involved in that film and just lose it.
Yeah. Well, this is a great example of it's so realistic and you really invest in these people as people. And then when horrible things happen to them, it's horrifying, it's devastating. They're saying in the chat room, like, they're saying this movie made me miserable, you should all go see it. But yeah, I mean, it's cathartic. You go and it brings out all of these emotions and things that we all feel about romance and falling in in love versus remaining in relationships over the course of years, and it's good to go and feel miserable and think about that stuff and then get on with your life.
Every once in a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a great film. Number two on the list, second best film of the year, I would say, David Fincher's The Social Network.
I loved this flick.
What's not to love? It's expertly made. It's brilliant. See, this is what I was saying. Like, if you look at something like Black Swan, it's thoughtful and clever, and it's well executed, but it's cold.
Yeah.
And this movie is thoughtful and clever and well executed, and it really moved me. It affected me. I felt like I had more insight into who Mark Zuckerberg was, at least the Mark Zuckerberg of this film. I don't know if it's the real guy. I've never met him, but you know what I'm saying. Like, let's take a look at a clip from the film.
Is that a question?
In the 16th email, you raised concerns about the site's functionality. Were you leading them on for 6 weeks?
No.
Then why didn't you raise any of these concerns before?
It's raining.
I'm sorry?
It just started raining.
Mr. Zuckerberg, do I have your full attention?
No.
Do you think I deserve it?
What?
Do you think I deserve your full attention?
I had to swear an oath before we began this deposition, and I don't want to perjure myself, so I have a legal obligation to say no.
Okay, no. You don't think I deserve your attention?
I think if your clients want to sit on my shoulders and call themselves tall, they have a right to give it a try, but there's no requirement that I enjoy sitting here listening to people lie. You have part of my attention. You have the minimum amount. The rest of my attention is back at the offices of Facebook, where my colleagues and I are doing things that no one in this room, including and especially your clients, are intellectually or creatively capable of doing. Did I adequately answer your condescending question?
So when this came out, there was a lot of discussion like, oh, is this the real story and how accurate it was? And honestly, it's based on a book that's about the founding of Facebook, right. The Accidental Billionaires. But this movie, to me, is really much more about Mark Zuckerberg and just about loneliness, about alienation.
It's got to be a dramatization. People have to realize this movie has to be a dramatization. It can't just be straight from life because there's so many elements.
Yeah, but that's true, and I just also think that's not really even what the movie was about. Like, David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin don't really seem to care, like, exactly how Facebook came together, who added what was going on in the lawsuits. That's all backdrop for this story about, this guy who feels like such an outcast and then tries to create something that will make him part of the world, and it ends up just making him feel more like an outcast.
And casting Justin Timberlake could not have worked better. I mean, the guy shows up, looks cool, and says, drop the, and everyone's like, I want to be Justin Timberlake, man. That's awesome.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be like, you know what, Lon, I like This Week in Movies. Drop the in. And then I'm just going to disappear, and everyone's like, ooh, I want to be Matt Rob.
This week, movies.
Exactly.
I like it. We're going to start doing that. It's filled with great performances. I mean, Timberlake's really good. Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg is amazing. Another potential Best Actor nominee, if I was deciding. And Armie Hammer as the Winklevi / the Winklevoss twins. One guy playing twins.
Not Eddie Murphy style.
No, two totally believably separate characters. I mean, it works really well, and he's very effective. And the screenplay is great. Aaron Sorkin screenplay, incredibly complicated, but it manages to, you're never confused. He's actually got the structure is incredibly complex. There's two simultaneous ongoing lawsuits that you're following, and you're flashing back to things that happen in both of the lawsuits, and you always know exactly where you are in the story. You're never confused. Incredible how he does that, and the dialogue is a lot of fun, too, in that traditional bantery, Sorkin-y style. And the cinematography, it's a gorgeous film, especially the rowing scene at Henley. There's a big rowing scene that they use tilt shift to kind of make everything that's in focus look miniature. And I mean, it works so well. It just, again, is like isolating these characters, like sticking them in the middle of like this almost miniaturized like toy river.
I mean, Reznor's score definitely helped. Trent Reznor
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score is also terrific and one of the best scores.
Fantastic stuff.
It's simultaneously like it's very warm piano sounds, but it's also creepy and sort of unsettling when it needs to be in the right moments.
I liked it.
All right, so last film.
Is this the pinnacle moment?
We're at the number one. We're at the number one film. I wonder if people can guess in the chat room based on what I've liked on the show.
I couldn't guess. This one is a little weird because the movie's not out yet.
Well, now that you've said that, they're all going to be able to guess. The movie's not out yet. I've given it a review on this show, and I loved it. So we'll see. I'm going to wait and see if the chat room can figure it out. Just to build up a little tension.
A little bit of tension.
A little drama. I know they want us to
drum roll. Nope.
Jazuda's got it.
There it is. It is
Number one, Joel and Ethan Coen's True Grit. I loved everything about this movie. It feels like a return to classic Coen brothers, like the great Coen brothers movies of the past. The Miller's Crossings, the Hudsucker Proxies, and Fargo. It's always taking these kind of old Hollywood styles, these old genres, and kind of reinventing them, like adding kind of quirk and adding sort of offbeat dialogue and a little bit of self-awareness, and then kind of making us reevaluate those old styles. And this does that beautifully with 50s and 60s sort of classic westerns.
Definitely.
And it's a remake of the same story that was made into a John Wayne western, and it's definitely trying to get back to that style of like the Randolph Scott or the John Wayne classic.
I'm agreeing with everything you say, but I haven't even seen the film yet.
So. You'll love it.
I'll love it.
Let's take a look at a clip so you'll at least see a little bit of it.
Can we depart this afternoon?
We? You are not going. That is no part of it.
You have misjudged me if you think I'm silly enough to give you $50 and watch you simply ride off.
I'm a bonded U.S. Marshal.
That weighs but little with me. I will see the thing done.
Damn duck. I can't go after Ned Pepper and a band of hard men look after a baby at the same time.
I'm not a baby.
Won't be stopping at boarding houses where there's warm beds and hot grub on the table. I'll be traveling fast, eating light. But the sleeping is going to take place on the ground.
Well, I have slept out at night before. Papa took me and little Frank coon hunting last summer on the Petty Jean. We were in the woods all night. We sat around a big fire and yarn all told ghost stories. We had a good time.
Cool, honey. This ain't no cool.
You get a little taste. I know it's not the best quality clip, but you get a little taste for the amazing Roger Deakins cinematography. What he does so brilliantly in this film is it's this expansive frontier, these like bright, wide open exteriors, and then you go inside and it's incredibly like tight and claustrophobic on everyone and dark and like poorly lit, and it really brings that across about like the promise of the frontier and like the adventure of, especially for this young girl, to leave sort of civilization and go into this like wild, untamed expanse.
And Jeff Bridges looks great as as John Wayne's character,
as a real human being,
as opposed to Tron Legacy.
Yes. And there's great performances from Bridges. You see Haley Steinfeld in that scene as the girl. Amazing. Matt Damon, also really surprisingly effective in this.
Considering that it's not a pretty movie and no one really looks good, and Matt Damon still, he has his look.
Yeah, and I mean he definitely like gets the sort of sense of humor of the movie. It's a great comic performance from him. Not just comic, but he's very funny in it. Really surprising from him. And just if you like classic sort of westerns, I can't see any chance that you wouldn't love this movie. No. So that's it. That's the number of the year. And that's it for us for This Week in Movies 2010.
Awesome.
I want to thank everyone so much for joining us this year. Please come back. We'll be back the first week, the first Sunday.
First Sunday of January.
The first Sunday of 2011. We'll be back. Farrell will be back once again. I wanted to end. YouTube user Genrox made this amazing montage using clips from hundreds of films that came out in 2010. It's called Filmography 2010. I asked him if it would be okay to use a little bit of it here in the show, and he said sure.
Cool.
So we're going to end on that. Happy holidays from This Week in Movies. We will see you next year. Let's roll that.
When the world is in peril, when evil surrounds you, when danger... Okay.
How come nobody's ever tried to be a superhero? Probably because it's impossible. It is possible.
We're dead.
You got a real knack for inspiring confidence, you know that?
So you ready?
No. 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 No.
How about yes?
Spoken like a soldier.
Not in my house, not under my roof, not in my house, anywhere, not in my house.
You out of your mind?
That is a silly question. I am 14.
Get out.
I'm an crazy. Boom.
Good times.
It's actually quite good fun.
Welcome to Wonderland.
It's so fluffy!
I want one.
No. If you want something bad, you have to fight for it. Break out the L word.
Lesbian?
I love lesbians.
Here, I'll play a song and you dance.
Exactly how much experience have you guys had with the outside?
quite a lot.
We haven't.
Excuse me. Sorry. Excuse me.
Young love, full of promise, full of hope, ignorant of reality.
Hey guys.
Are you insane?
What do you think? You're peculiar.
Thank you.
It's not a compliment, Garrett.